to get out to all areas of the community so that we have an opportunity to talk to folks in all the neighborhoods, have you ask questions, let you kind of know what's going on across the city. I just will make a few comments tonight because the real information comes from our directors. The format we'd like to use is a few comments from me. We'll have the directors come up and talk about their particular departments and what activities they have. If we can, I'd like to go through all of the presentations first and then have a question for questions after we get through all of the directors' presentations. If that doesn't work for you, and seriously, I just really have a few things to talk about, and I may actually mention something that a director wants to talk about, so I want to assure you folks it'll just be at the 30,000-foot level, and you can still talk about city field if you want. Anyway, a couple of things though that I would like to mention to you. The first is I'm trying to make as many people aware, if we can, as we look at the community, and we know we're a town of 40,000 people. A lot of people don't understand that big of a number. We're the third largest city in the country. And of course, if you live in our part of the world, from this area, we live down over the hill, you're not really aware of the way the geography of the city is. You start in the north end, it's about this wide, and as you get down to the county line, it really broadens out. We go all the way over to Lake Ballinger. So we really have a larger city than most people think of. And we're not just the quaint little town in downtown Edmonds. But I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the projections that are coming our way as a community, whether you're up here or you're down there. We're going to have about 200,000 people join us in Snohomish County between now and 2035, I think. 200,000 more people in our county. Now, one of the things that we face in Edmonds is that we are pretty well built out. We still have, obviously, small development that takes place. We have large projects that go on, like the Swedish Hospital, other large projects like that, but we are pretty well built out. The projections, though, are that we will have by 2035, another 5,500 people join us in the city of Edmonds. Of course, they're just projections. It may not be obviously exactly that. So that's a pretty good sized number of people if you've got, we're going to have 10% plus by 2035. It's also projected that we'll have to find places for about 1,000 extra jobs in Snohomish County. When you look at the total growth we expect in Snohomish County, the number's big enough so that we'd have to actually countywide project maybe another 50,000 jobs in Snohomish County. Think about what that's going to do to our infrastructure. That's a big number. Getting back to Edmonds, though, with our 5,500 people, we're projected to need to have space somewhere for another 1,000 jobs in our city. And then beyond that, and this is the one that I still have trouble dealing with, we're projected to need another 1,200 new housing units in Edmonds by 2035. And I already mentioned that we're already pretty well built out, so what are we going to do with those folks? And where are we going to put those units? And of course, the good news is we've got some time to plan for that, but nonetheless, we're going to have to figure out that it will happen, regardless of what the exact number is. We know we're going to have growth. And I don't really use growth so much as I like to talk about change, because we need to figure out what changes have to take place to let those changes happen. So that'll be one of the big challenges that we'll be facing, and I don't know if one of the directors will already going to be talking about that. Another thing that I constantly think about and probably drive my finance guy nuts, because I always want to know what's the next projection from this month. What do we have coming in 6 months? Because one of my underlying concerns is that, as you know, we don't have any big box stores in the city of Edmonds. You have to go to Linwood to find things like that. We don't have big box stores, we don't have shopping malls. So how is it we generate the revenue that we need to offset the expenses? One of the great pluses in our community is that we have high expectations. We have a good lifestyle, it's comfortable, safe place. But how do we meet the expenses? How do we meet the expectations of the people who live in the community with the amount of revenue that we can generate? We've been able to make some real, I think, positive changes along with the economy. The example I used in a short presentation I made last night was that if you were in downtown Edmonds after 6 o'clock, 5 or 6 years ago, you could park any place you wanted to. That's not so much now. It's a good problem. We actually have to ask you to look for a parking place so you can go to the restaurant and spend money so I can have revenue from the city. It's a change. You know, that's the way it is. So we need to think creatively, though, how we can continue to generate that revenue. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. We don't want to change downtown. My view of the downtown, I know people worry about height and that stuff all the time. But I've become convinced that that downtown area is really a magnet that people come to for a daytime experience, for a nighttime experience, whether it's going to the ECA or have dinner, come into town just to do some small town stuff, because you think about coming out of Bellevue with the sort of hecticness that goes on there, or the city of Seattle. It's a way for people to get away and have a small town experience. And so I see that as a real emphasis that we need to have to generate the kinds of revenue and meet the expectations that we have. You folks know that Highway 99, I'm sure that Shane will mention this, we're doing a study there. We have really good businesses out on Highway 99, but there are gaps in between where the really good businesses are, and we need to figure out how longer term we can deal with that. The last thing I'll mention is that we've got, I guess, 5 big ideas that I'd like to mention to you that we need to think about. And I know that there's lots of others too, so these aren't the only ones, but they're just the kind of thinking that we need to do, I think, longer term in the community. I've already mentioned the budget stuff that I worry about, so that's the first one. The good news is, of course, we're generating more money and the town is busier. The bad news is, as I've already mentioned, we have a parking issue in front of us. And we need to work on that over a longer term, figure out how we're going to begin to address the parking issues in town. It's a good problem as far as I'm concerned, but one that we need to work on. Highway 99, we have a real opportunity there to do the creative thinking that I've already mentioned. That 2-mile stretch from the county line up to about 212. So I see that as a real opportunity that we need to really focus in on. The fourth one that I'll mention that is actually in play right now is the alternatives analysis that we're doing for the at-grade crossings in downtown Main Street and Dayton Street. We appointed a task force who's about halfway, halfway through a little more than halfway over. And they're actually going to be bringing forward some recommendations on how we can deal with the conflict between people, cars, trains, which I see as a solvable problem, but one that we need to get going on. And I think Bill or Patrick will maybe refer to that tonight too. And the last one that has really just kind of come on the scene, but we need to really pay close attention to, it's the whole idea of homelessness. It's the idea of the addiction problem that we've got here in the Puget Sound area. We need to really kind of focus in on that and related to all of those first two, the affordable housing. As you know, the real estate values in Edmonds are strong. And where and how can we help people who need to have more affordable housing? How do we find a place for them? Part of the answer can be in some of the areas around the Westgate, could maybe even be around Five Corners, and certainly along Highway 99. Those three issues lumped into one comprised of 5 issues that I would really try to think long-term, big picture, what we have to do to make some corrections there. So, with that, the game we play next is that all the directors know they're going to get to speak tonight, but they don't know who's first. See, when you're married, you get to say who. And Al's smiling, so Al, you're first.
That's perfect. See, what you don't know is all the other directors ceded their time to me, so I have the next hour and a half to do that. I'm very appreciative of that.
And let me interrupt. This guy pulls up in a car. He and his wife live in the neighborhood.
So, see, the nice thing is, though, is that my boss is here tonight, and I'm not worried at all about the mayor. This is my wife, who is the boss, and she is here. So I'm truly excited tonight to tell you a bit about the police department. We've been busy on a variety of fronts. Our recruiting efforts have been interesting in this job market. We have had some very good success, but we still have a couple positions that are open. We've hired both entry-level and lateral police officers, and as part of our outreach, we put together, with the help of a firm in Seattle who donated to staff time to put it together, 2 recruiting videos, and they are on our website, and we're very proud of them. Check them out. One for entry-level, one for lateral entry officers. So check those out. 2 police officer positions were reinstated in this year's budget for our street crimes unit. And that unit will consist of a sergeant. We use an existing FTE for that sergeant. And then the 2 new police officer positions. They're going to concentrate on street level crime. Crimes that really impact the quality of life for our community and our residents' feeling of safety and security. Crimes such as vehicle prowling, vandalism, organized shoplifting, prostitution, street-level drugs, kind of stuff that a lot of people don't even think happens in Edmonds, but we'll talk more about that in just a minute. We're partnering with our Edmonds Police Foundation, wonderful group, and Bruce Wittenberg has been a long-time member of our Police Foundation. Thank you for being here tonight, Bruce. Son Alex has been very supportive of the department. We're partnering with the foundation for purchase of a second police dog. The department will, in turn, select a second canine officer so that team can deploy with our existing canine team. That will give us a capability of having 2 dog handlers, 2 police dogs, give us a much better response and search capability here in Edmonds, as well as shared response, mutual aid to our surrounding communities. Hopefully we'll have that in place sometime this fall. Very proud of what we've done as an agency to get timely information out to our residents on Twitter and Facebook. We've been very active on Twitter and Facebook since last year. We were a little late to the show with that because of records retention issues, but we went through that. Since the opening of our 2 accounts last year, we already have nearly 3,200 people monitoring us on a regular basis, so that's really neat. We can get information out very quickly that way. Another benefit of using that social media has been our increased partnerships with local media. My Edmonds News has been outstanding. We also work closely with Q13's Washington's Most Wanted and Puget Sound Crime Stoppers. They've aired pieces on some of our wanted subjects and photographs from some of our cases where suspects have yet to be identified. And through those partnerships and involvement of our community, our detectives have been able to identify and arrest several wanted criminals. We had a little string of burglaries towards the end of last year down over the hill from here into the south a little ways, where we were able to identify 2 prolific burglars on Washington's Most Wanted and get them in custody. So that was a real plus for us. And finally, on the hiring and assignment front, the Edmonds School District and the Edmonds Police Department are working towards reinstating the school resource officer at Edmonds Woodway High School. That was a victim of the recession, and the district wasn't able to fund. We had a cost-sharing arrangement with the district, 50-50. So the district has now indicated a willingness to fund their half, and my intention is to go to our city council later this year and ask for the half from the city so we can reinstate that position. And January 1st of next year is our goal on that. Some of that's going to be dependent upon our ability to get our positions fully staffed. I'm proud of every member of our department, and our motto is service before self, and our core values in the department, and our people really subscribe to these: service, integrity, respect, and stewardship. And I'm going to talk a bit now about some of our activities, and I think keep those, our service before self, our motto in mind, along with our core values. Over the last year, we've handled 29,426 total incidents. That's quite a number. Much of our work goes without much fanfare or without media attention. In a way, we like that. That's a good thing. But at the same time, some of our community members might get lulled into a false sense of security. Everybody needs to pitch in and do their part with crime prevention and helping us to do our job. And as part of that 29,426 total incidents, I'm going to break that down a little further with you so that you have a better understanding of what we do out there. We had almost 24,000 dispatch calls in 2015. Those are calls going into the 911 center, or incidents that an officer generated on view out in the field. Those calls for service cover things from barking dogs to shoplifts, vandalism, burglaries, robberies, vehicle thefts, and violent assaults. All that happens here to one degree or another. We made over 5,500 traffic stops. Any of you get visited by our officers? Never mind. We issued over 4,500 traffic citations, arrested 98 DUIs. Total arrests last year, 1,200 adults and 99 juveniles for a whole assortment of different crimes. We investigated 776 traffic collisions. We issued over 1,000 parking infractions. We wrote 4,700 police reports, 490 field interview reports. We investigated 170 domestic violence related incidents. And our animal control officers handled 1,100 incidents involving domestic animals and wild animals. In addition, our police services staff responded to 1,800 public records requests, and we approved 874 concealed pistol licenses and gun transfers. There were 18 robberies reported to us last year, 209 residential and commercial burglaries, 191 assaults, 89 vehicle thefts, and 766 other thefts. I'm going to give you a test when we're done to see. But this is the thing when I was putting this together, really proud of our staff. We solved 56% of the robberies by arrests. We solved 22% of the burglaries. And a benchmark for police departments in the Puget Sound area is probably 10 to 12% of the burglaries. Burglaries can be hard to solve because oftentimes there's no witnesses. We solved 82% of the assaults, 21% of the vehicle thefts, and 34% of other miscellaneous thefts. This year, 2016, our department budget is just over $9.7 million. It's a pretty good chunk of change. Looking at it another way, that's an investment of $240 for each of our 40,490 residents who make an investment into public safety. We provide 24/7 services. We have our 55 budgeted police officer positions and our 10 support staff that do all this stuff that I just rattled off for you. That's why I'm proud. They work diligently to enforce the law firmly and fairly. They patrol our neighborhoods. They conduct detailed follow-up investigations of all kinds of crimes. We provide a very high level of service. and our residents expect a high level of service. And if we fail, and we do from time to time, my phone rings, and I expect it to, and that's okay. But in order for us to do an effective job, we need our community to help us with it and need us to call 911. If something seems out of the ordinary, call. It probably is, so we want to know about it. And I was just looking at activity in the area up here, in the area from Perrineville North, and I'm happy to say that the most common call that comes into the 911 center, we've had 300 of these so far this year, are suspicious persons or suspicious circumstance calls. And it's not me getting on the phone and calling all the time, even though I live in the area here. But that indicates to me that people are keeping an eye out. So that's really important, that partnership that we have. And my officers and my staff know that I expect us to go out every day and work to earn the public's trust. You can think about communities probably not all that far from here where that trust has been fractured or it's not as strong as it should be. So we work on that very hard. So I'll leave you with those comments. I'll be happy to answer questions later on, and I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Well, I made my first mistake of the evening. I usually announce that we have 7 or 8 minutes.
I was on 5 there.
And then I call the one guy who I know always goes over, so you got away with it. It's fine. I should have and would like to introduce, so we do have 3 of our council members who have joined us this evening. Dave Teitzel, right here. Neil Tibbet is in the back. And Mike Nelson on this side of the room. As I was telling someone, I've had a very good week because we have the town hall tonight. We had actually another one in different format last night. And the bonus of the week was there was no council meeting. I'm sure they all feel the same way. Yeah. Well, it's good to know that we've already had a volunteer to follow Al, and it turns out that it's Carrie Hyde. Carrie Hyde.
Thanks, Mayor. It's my pleasure to be here tonight as well, and as Chief Compton was talking about creating safety and protecting the public, it's my job in the Parks Department to bring quality of life to the community. And I have a very strong staff team that does that. We oversee 325 acres of parks. We have 32 different park sites that we take care of. We operate the Francis Anderson Center and do recreation programs. We provide about 1,000 to 1,200 programs a year for citizens of Edmonds. We also oversee and have partnerships with the library and the senior center and the public facility, the Edmonds Center for the Arts. We also operate and maintain a cemetery and an outdoor seasonal pool and a spray pad, a new spray pad. So I'm going to talk about that. We've been very busy this year, and I wanted to take this opportunity to let you know what's going on around town in the Parks Department. And I'm going to focus right now just on the Meadowdale area, since this is your neighborhood, first, and then I'll walk you through town and go downtown. In the Meadowdale area, we are in a partnership with the City of Linwood for the Meadowdale playfields over here, and we are in the throes of design because we're going to rehab those fields. And so the City of Linwood is taking the lead in it, but the City of Edmonds is at the table. We contribute capital dollars, and we are a strong partner. We actually use those fields quite a bit for our softball programs, and we're excited about the possibility of what that's going to become. We also, if you look out that door, or as you walk out, if you look back here, we actually operate this preschool here, Meadowdale Clubhouse. We have a preschool that operates during the school year, and we're actually replacing the play area out there this summer. So it should be up and ready to go in September. It is for preschool kids. It's 2 to 5. It's a very small area. But, and we've had the kids involved in the selection process. It's been kind of fun, and the preschool teacher, and we're excited to get that on order and get that installed this summer. Other things that larger projects that we're involved in that actually impact the whole community, we're currently under construction and rehab of the downtown fishing pier. fishing pier is one of the only piers in the greater Puget Sound area that actually provides what we provide in that fishing pier. And it's owned by Fish and Wildlife, but we operate and maintain it. And we have gone out we hired a contractor to do some fix on that pier. We ran into some issues a few weeks ago. I was just actually telling Teresa that we should have a press release out at the beginning of next week, but we did figure out some things for the pier, and we're hopeful that we'll have it open before the end of the summer. So we're excited about that. One of the most exciting projects that we just completed was we cut the ribbon last Thursday on the new spray pad. Hazel Miller Spray Park in downtown Edmonds at the City Park. It's a 5,000 square foot spray park. It took a few years for us to work through all the technical issues. We have a very high water table there, and in order to operate a spray park, you have to be able to sink a 5,000 gallon tank, and we were not able to do that originally, and so we reconfigured it, redesigned it, came back, and were able to make that work. So since we cut the ribbon last Thursday, every time I've been by it, and my park maintenance manager has his office down there, there are 100 to 150 people on that pad at any given time. I can't even anticipate what it's going to be like this weekend with 80-degree weather day. We haven't had a nice sunny day since we cut the ribbon, so we're excited about that. We, the city, just closed on a property, an 8-acre acquisition from the school district, Civic Field. And we've been operating that as a park, but we have never owned it. We've leased it for $1 a year. We were told by the school district in 2020 that they were going to charge us fair market value to continue to lease it and operate it as a park. We have made it known to the school district over many, many years that we're interested in purchasing it, and we were finally able to negotiate it and leverage some grant funds into the city to pay for it, and we closed in February. The day after we closed, we put an RFP on the market to hire a consultant firm to come in and help us master plan that project. We've never really put any capital repairs or capital investment into that property because we've never owned it. And so now that we own it, we're starting the public process to say to the community, what would you like to see down at Civic Field? Is it a downtown signature magnet park? Is it an athletic complex? Is it a pétanque complex? Is it a... I had to say that.
Way to go, Harry.
But we have a pretty robust public process designed for this, and our first open house is on June 23rd, and it's from 6 to 7:30 at the Library Plaza Room. We will be getting press releases out, and it'll be on Facebook, and we'll have it on my Edmonds News and the Beacon and Herald, and so keep your eyes open for that. We'd love for you to come out and help us with some ideas and vision for that property. We also are working with a community group. Last year, the council charged a community group with development and design and construction of a new park downtown, and it's called the Veterans Plaza, and it's to commemorate all of the people who have served our country. And we have a pretty large community group that's been doing a capital campaign. They have raised the complete $450,000 for it, and will be under construction in July. Their goal is to open it by November 11th and have it been coming on November 11th. And so it's city property. It'll be a city park that we maintain. The community group has taken the lead to actually do all the fundraising and work with the council on the design process, and we're pretty excited about that. It's going to be located right in front of the public safety complex. So when you drive downtown at the kitty corner to City Hall, there's a big sort of open plaza area with trees. There's actually going to be a wall, a really nice wall with different quotes on it, and there's going to be a reflective garden and some areas to sit and reflect. So we're excited about that. We have been partnering with the Senior Center as well. They're headlong in the process of a capital campaign for it to develop a new center to doze the one that's there because it's in pretty bad shape, and rebuild. And they're doing all the fundraising for that, the nonprofit is, but the city is coming behind it in parallel to the process to redevelop the waterfront of the Senior Center, to take the last remaining creosote pier out of Puget Sound, pull it back, and create some beach habitat and some wildlife habitat, and also reconfigure it to have a hand boat launch so people can access the water with kayaks and canoes. We're pretty excited about that. Dayton Street Plaza is a plaza downtown. We've been under construction. It was a long time in the making, but it's a nice gathering area. That should be done in a couple weeks. The Francis Anderson Center, we have an outdoor amphitheater stage that we use for various things. and we are in the process of going out to bid to replace that actual amphitheater. It's separating, it's in really bad shape, but we're excited to be able to rehab that this year. We just completed a Marina Beach, so we're working with Stormwater, and Phil might talk about this too. It's sort of a dual win-win project to daylight Willow Creek out into the Sound, and it comes from the marsh and it will come through Marina Beach. And we just worked with the community on a new master plan for Marina Beach so that we can figure out the alignment of Willow Creek as it goes out into the Sound. So the goal really is to rehab the marsh and to create more salmon habitat up into the marsh. And so we completed the master plan. It was adopted by the council in February, and we also then replaced the play equipment down there. So when we get to the point where we actually redevelop that park, we picked play equipment that will be able to move to the new location in the redevelopment plan. Let's see, we are starting an art project along the 4th Avenue Cultural Corridor. It's a lighting project that is going to be laid into the roadway, and it will light up 4th Avenue all the way from Main Street to the Edmonds Center for the Arts. And so it's one of our temporary art projects that we're doing so that we can start to bring visibility to that 4th Avenue Cultural Corridor. We're pretty excited. We have another project that we're putting in 3 outdoor fitness zones in 3 different parks geographically located around the city. One will be at Seaview Park, which is closer to you. One is at Matthew Ballinger, and one will be at City Park. And I just saw the mayor stand up, which I think means my time is up. I don't have any more, but we're really busy, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. Thanks.
Besides just simply being a high-energy person, as you can tell she is, she also talks with her hands going disgusting. It's amazing to watch. She should be exhausted after 5 or 6 days. The next person to volunteer is Shane Hope, who runs our development services area, and she has a whole bunch of work in front of her too. Shane.
Thank you, Mayor, and I am glad to be here. Let me tell you a little bit about the Development Services Department. That might not be a term you're used to. You might wonder what's Development Services. But that has to do with all of the long-range planning for the community, as well as things about permitting. So you need a water heater permit. It's my department that works on that. And permits for all kinds of things. In fact, in 2015, we had the highest number of permits issued ever in this city. And why is that? It's because people are busy doing things. They want to improve their homes or their businesses. They want to add some space, all those kinds of things. And so they need to get permits. And, you know, the economy's better than it was several years ago. So people are busy doing things. So that keeps us real busy. We have a counter where not only do we help people that want to come in for a permit, but sometimes people are just asking about their property information, and they want to see on a map where their property lines are based on our records, or where their utility lines are, those kinds of things. So we have that information. And we have a website where people can also ask questions. Maybe some of you have taken advantage of that. So if you go onto the city webpage, there's a place where you can get information. You can ask the department, if you ask the Development Services Department about something with your property or what the zoning is or those kinds of things, we'd be the ones who answer that. In addition to those things, we work on issues such as the environment, the natural environment. So under the Environmental Protection Act, the Shoreline Management Act, our own critical areas, environmental critical areas. In fact, the City Council just adopted the update to our environmental critical areas, something that we've been working on for quite a while to protect those areas. That would be steep slopes, for example, wetlands, frequently flooded areas, wildlife habitat areas, those kinds of things. And we also work on, I think I said housing, but that would be kind of the big picture for housing and how we can grow, change, reflect needs for the future as, let's face it, there are more people in the world, in our county, and in our community. And so trying to make sure that we have ways to provide for housing and businesses that make sense, fit in with the community needs. So we work on those issues. We also are, work on things that happen a little bit in your area. While there's no big development projects happening here that we know about, if you find any, call me. But we do have things like Meadowdale Marina, some of you might know. That's a wharf area that's been in disrepair for quite a while. So we've been working with the property owner. It's been a lot of effort to try to get that cleaned up. But if you haven't compared it between now and a year ago or so, do take a look. It's much better. A lot of that debris is gone. So we'll continue working towards that. We don't have the authority to require it to be pulled down or something like that, but we do have some authority to require it to be safe. And so because of that, we can work through with the debris and so on and get that in better shape. So we're pleased that is improving. Then there's the big picture things like a comprehensive plan for the whole community. So simple task, right? We did an update on that. The City Council adopted that several months back. Every 8 years, we have to do a major update of the comprehensive plan under our state's growth management laws. But in between, we'll do minor updates, fix a little, adjust a little something here or there. So we'll do that as well. And then working on, as the mayor mentioned, the Highway 99 area planning project. And the idea was that we've got about a 2-mile stretch of Highway 99 where it's in the city of Edmonds. And that's an area that has some great things that have happened there. For example, the Swedish Edmonds Hospital, excellent complex. They've made a lot of improvements there too, so it's even better than ever. And we're happy that they're in our community serving all of us. There's medical clinics and things around that. We've also got the international area where there's great restaurants and other businesses there. We've got car sales, some really fabulous dealers. And we've got some places in between, as the mayor also said, that aren't quite so nice. We hope longer term that some of those will be turning over and improving. So part of the planning process is to help think about what the vision is for the future so that we don't just wait for things to happen and kind of willy-nilly and get everything happening without some kind of plan to help guide it. And then we can also see, well, are there some things out of that? Obviously, the city doesn't own those properties, so we can't force things to happen. That isn't even our intent. But are there things that we can do to encourage the good things and discourage the things that aren't so good or healthy in our community? So we can look at those things, and that'll be part of the next steps of the plan as we develop the vision. What can we do to get there? And working with all of our partners, the property owners, the businesses, the public. So that'll be exciting, but not only for the land area around Highway 99, but also the connectivity to the rest of the community. Sometimes people feel like Highway 99 is a little different district than the rest of the community, but it's really all part of Edmonds, and we want it to feel that way. And furthermore, that's a major corridor, transportation corridor. We've got bus rapid transit stations there, and buses going through pretty efficiently. We think there'll be more buses going through there as time goes along. The community transit plans to add more service. And of course, not far away is our light rail stations that will be going in up in Linwood and up Lake Terrace. So that'll also be accessible not far from Highway 99. And of course, Highway 99 itself is a route that connects north and south and is an important part of travel as well as an important part of our community. So we want to see that area look better and work better and be safe for the future. Some of you have probably seen what Shoreline has done along Highway 99, and so there's some good ideas from that. Some of those, I think, some of those kinds of ideas we can fold in for thinking about Highway 99, but obviously not just like Shoreline, it would be Edmonds' own way. But when we look at that, we have reserved in the state's transportation budget for several years out some money, actually $10 million that's promised to Edmonds. And what we want to do is have a plan for that corridor and how it can be improved so that we can not only get that money maybe sooner, but also some other monies that will help improve that area, and particularly that corridor, make it greener, friendlier, safer, and better for walking, for people that are walking, as well as safe for drivers too. So those are a few of the things that we're working on. Glad to answer questions later. Thank you.
The next person who just volunteered, who doesn't know it yet, is Patrick. Patrick is our Community Services and Economic Development Director. He's really overseeing lots of really pretty fun projects now.
So I'm Patrick Doherty, and I do wear a couple different hats at least. So economic development and community services are the two titles, but there's a lot of things, and I was looking at my notes here, just really a scatter diagram. So it's a lot of stuff, which makes it interesting. So related to economic development, if you think about what's been happening in town, and the new restaurants that have been opening up in downtown and Westgate, the expansion of Swedish Hospital, all the redevelopment at Sailor's Crossing, and think about the new tenants that are there. In addition to the museum, of course, we've got Scratch, and the Bottle Shop, and Spud, and Top Pot is coming, and another restaurant, I think it's 126 Sunset, I think the name is. Huge amount of redevelopment. There's a bank there as well, we think. Redevelopment of new tenants throughout the city, single family, is up substantially, as James mentioned, permanent volumes and multifamily. So all of that is part of what economic development is about. It's just seeing investment, and investment leads to new businesses opening and growing, and jobs, and all of that, of course, helps with municipal revenue to help fund the services you're hearing about, but also the quality of life. I mean, quality of life is many things, but part of quality of life is having available nearby a full range of goods and services that we can access. So we don't have to drive distances to get different goods and services, or be entertained, or have a nice meal, or live somewhere, or be educated somewhere, or even come to meetings. That we have a full community with a full spectrum of activities, and that's all part of quality of life. And so part of my job is to help see the economy grow smartly in a way that will include all those things that we want to see. So there are sort of four main areas of economic development that we're engaged in as a city. One is business retention, expansion, and attraction. And a lot of people, when you will just say economic development, they think, oh, you're all about attracting the new plants, in our city, the new office, the new employer in town. Well, certainly that's what we want, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But actually, in most cities in the nation, the greatest source of business growth and job growth is the expansion of existing businesses. So it's really important that, that we provide a platform for our existing businesses to grow. And that is everything from our regulations and our permitting process to any incentives we might have to offer, and just the friendliness of the community towards the business community. So that's really important. But regarding attracting businesses, that's tough, obviously. Every community out there is competing for businesses, either taking them away from each other or hoping that new businesses will grow. We have actually engaged in business attraction advertising for really the first time, probably in possibly ever, but certainly in memory, institutional memory. And we're being pretty aggressive about it. We've got some really nice ads. I almost thought of bringing somebody. I didn't know how many people would be here. In the Seattle Business Monthly magazine, which are really great. You see that magazine, pick it up, and you'll see great ads in there, attracting business to consider coming to Edmonds. And then now, for the next half of the year, in the Daily Journal of Commerce. So we're really trying to get the right kind of businesses to consider coming to Edmonds. One of the things that you may not know is that in our population of roughly 40,000 people, there's about 21,000 working people in the workforce. So that's roughly half are in the workforce. But we only have about 13,000 jobs in town for those 21,000 people. And that's actually not that bad, except that what we found out is that only about 4,200 of the 21,000 working people work in Edmonds. In other words, about 80% of the workers leave Edmonds looking for their jobs. And that's probably because Edmonds is one of the more expensive communities in our county, and the higher paying jobs are not as concentrated in Edmonds. They're in Seattle, they're in some sort of South Everett area, they're in other places, so people are seeking those higher paying jobs outside the community, commuting, contributing to traffic, and then coming back. Conversely, though, we have 9,100 jobs in town who people commute into Edmonds to occupy those jobs. Those jobs tend to be service sector, healthcare sector, some other areas that maybe don't pay as high, and those people may not all be able to afford to live in Edmonds. So we have a jobs housing imbalance, and that's something that we really need to focus on, both in planning and in economic development, try to bring higher paying jobs to town so that people who do live here have an opportunity to stay in their community, but likewise consider the affordable housing so that people who do occupy the somewhat lower paying jobs have an opportunity to live here. So that's really important. And obviously, redevelopment and key location, we kind of touched upon that already, so I won't really kind of go there. But there are opportunities throughout the city for appropriate redevelopment, and I really need to say that, underscore that, because there are appropriate scales of development for the different neighborhoods. Highway 99, what's appropriate on Highway 99 may not be appropriate downtown, or may not be appropriate in Westgate, Five Corners. They all have their own character, and the development needs to be scaled and appropriate for those areas. Excuse me. Another big area is tourism. And tourism maybe sounds like a funny word, but it's really visitorship, I guess is the way. A lot of people come to Edmonds, whether they be from our region just for a day or overnight, or people from way out of town, even out of the country. And it's important that we do everything we can to capitalize on that. That's, in the tourism industry, they call it OPM, other people's money. And we love OPM. Because if you don't bring other people's money into the equation, you're basically just selling each other cups of coffee, and that's not really growing the economy. So we really want to grow the economy by capturing other people's money. And so we do aggressive advertising, we have brochures, we have a really great website. If you haven't seen, visit edmonds.com, it's a great website to go to. And one of the key reasons you might want to go to as a local who isn't a visitor is that on that website we have an arts and events calendar. So if you want to know what's happening in town, any day of the week, weekend, or next month, just for yourselves, maybe visitors coming to town, check out our arts and events calendar. It's also on the city's website. A little more digging in the city's website because there's so much that has to be crammed into the city website. So if you remember, visit edmonds.com. It's much more front and center there. It's easier to find. And you'll see what's happening in town as far as arts and culture events and activities, which is a great thing. And obviously our visitors need to know that. One little fun project that's starting to take shape, I mean that in the sense that we're in the process, that is part of the overall kind of amenity package for tourists and visitors and even locals, is that we are building, or we will be soon building, a downtown restaurant. So it's something that's been out there in people's minds for a long time. And as small as that seems, it's actually a really important thing, because people who come to downtown need the comfort, literally, of a restaurant to know that they can linger and they can shop more and spend more money. And so that's, we hope that we will open before Halloween, because there's a fair amount of activities that happen later after Halloween. We just heard about the Veterans Plaza opening on the 11th of November, then we have the holiday market, and then we have downtown holiday activities, so we really want to get that time frame. Under Community Services hat, you may know that we have a strategic action plan. The City Council approved a few years ago and then updated and reapproved last year. There's 85 items in that plan that range all over everything you can imagine that the city and the community and other partners, not even just the city, should do to help improve quality of life in Edmonds. And so I'm in charge of monitoring and that document and helping to implement, getting people to, and prodding people to implement their parts of the plan. And you can see track the progress on the strategic action plan by visiting our website. It's pretty front and center. If you go to the website, there's a link right there for the page that highlights that plan. Another thing that's very important that I help coordinate is the city's legislative agenda. So we do, of course, have items of great importance to us, whether they be money, whether they be legislation, whether they be changes in policy, down in Olympia every year. There we go. It's so important we get fanfare. So important we get some fanfare. So we have a great lobbyist in Olympia, Jennifer Siegler, who is helping us out, and of course, when it's in session, and next year is a big session, so we're really hoping for a little bit heavier lifting than we got this year. The mayor's down in Olympia, other staff are, I am sometimes in our lobby, so that's important. Skip a couple things here. We engaged a couple years ago to a substantially greater degree in our outreach and communication to the public. And Carol Douglas was brought on board as our contract public information officer and really helped substantially in our outreach to the community. We established our Facebook page, as the chief said. There's a separate one for police, but we have the city one, and this police one came out at the same time. We've been really putting out a lot more. You see articles from the mayor, but also from the directors. You see obviously the town halls. You see all sorts of great placements in the media, and Carolyn has helped pitch stories to the regional media about things happening in Edmonds and really getting out there on the radar screen, which is great. Two last things I'd like to say, which are really important. We have the city council approved, and it's just starting basically right now, a national citizen survey. So there is a survey of folks in town that is starting this month. It's a national survey in the sense that a national organization conducts it, and we're benchmarked against other communities throughout the nation. So it's a standardized set of questions. 22 households were randomly selected. Possibly someone in this room may have received a postcard already, because this week postcards went out telling people that they will be receiving the survey. That should be next week. They'll receive the survey. It's a printed survey to fill out and return in a prepaid, postage-paid envelope. And then they get a reminder a couple weeks after that with another copy of the survey to get it in. It's really important to get response on that, obviously. And it's a full range of questions on a full range of issues that a city would be interested in. So that's really going to be important. And lastly, I would just say that we established at the end of last year a diversity commission for the first time in our history. So recognizing that we do have a diverse community and trying to bring together folks to help discuss policies and issues that relate to inclusion and a more inclusive community. And that diversity commission's got a very ambitious agenda. It's done all sorts of great things. And the very next thing we will be doing is marching as a contingent in the 4th of July parade, celebrating, I think their theme is accept, respect, and celebrate diversity, and on a banner. And anyone who's interested in joining their contingent, let me know, because they'd like to see 50 or 60 or 70 people behind their banner, if possible, people that are interested in celebrating the diversity that is here in Edmonds. So with that, thank you very much for having me, and I'll be here for questions as well.
I would just ask if all the council members would please turn off their phones.
I was on the My Edmonds news site. And blared music.
It was a good comeback, but I don't believe it. The next person I'd like to introduce is Scott James, who runs the finance side of the city, and the one that I'm probably talking to, well, I guess I talk to most of them all the time. But Scott's done a great job. He's joined us actually, well, backing up further. He used to work in finance at Edmonds, then went to east of the mountains, and came back to Mukilteo to direct financing there. And we were able to hire him away. So, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank you for coming this evening and joining us here. I also want you to know this is my neighborhood as well. I live just a few blocks down 161st. I love my yard, so you'll see me in my yard often. I have some handouts. If you didn't get one, I have a couple extras here. If you get one, I'll pass them along. The finance department is, my colleagues may beg to differ with me, but the finance department is probably the most interesting department in the finance department. Let me explain. Well, all these, you've heard these plans, these great ideas you heard about, the crimes unit coming on board. You see all these plans, these wishes for how we want to make our city a better place to live. But guess what? They all have to go through finance. We actually got to pay for it. So it's really kind of actually a fun job. One of the things that people may not understand, finance's job is a job of anticipation. Let me explain. One of the things that Mayor mentioned earlier is budget. Budget is more than just looking at numbers. You have to actually anticipate where the revenue streams are coming from, where are the new expenses coming from. And also in finance, I'm over IT as well. And one of the things that we've done in IT is we've done a good job of trying to anticipate the new needs of technology. Technology is hugely important in how we run our city. Guess what? Everybody is affected by technology. We heard evidence of earlier, a phone ringing. You know, those are things that we all take for granted. You sit down at the computer, you want to make sure you get your emails and access your files. But it takes planning. So we put together a 5-year strategic plan to talk about how we're going to make sure everybody, when they sit down at the desk in the morning, they can access their files and do business. When city citizens come in and they want to look at our city website, guess what? There's IT fingers all over that to make sure that you can navigate and find different sites. So IT is really an exciting part that's going on as well. But in finance, the best part of the job is actually, I kind of handed some handouts, is actually analyzing some of the numbers. So on the first, on page 2, you'll see revenue trend analysis. And this thing is actually, it's very interesting to me, because if you look over from one year to the next, you'll see that the revenues, the very bottom says property tax. You'll see in 2012, property tax made up a large portion of the city's revenues for a general fund. Well, how is that? Well, part of you remember we had this recession that started in 2008. Well, what happens when you go through recession is your sales tax revenues, your permit revenues, they decline. So your property tax becomes the major source. And so that's what that picture is telling me. But you start looking at 2014, what do you see? You see that the property tax proportion is lower. So that means there's less dependence on property tax. That's really kind of exciting. But it's a reflection of what we heard earlier. The economy is strong and vibrant, as Mayor had pointed out. When you go downtown, which I do frequently, you have to walk to find a parking, from your parking spot to the restaurant of choice. And that's really kind of exciting. If you flip over to the next chart, page chart 3, it's another way to look at how the revenues come into the city. You'll see property tax is actually a major source. But you see sales tax is also a major source of revenues. Service charges also is a major source. I kind of want to start putting some things in perspective for you as well. On chart 4, this down here is the property tax rate. And I kind of put this in here because I found it very interesting. When we start comparing the city of Edmonds' property tax rate with our neighboring cities, Edmonds' property tax rate is low. It's the 5th lowest in the county. And I like to think that a couple things are going on. One, the city's doing a very good job of managing your money. And the second thing is we're able to return a very good benefit. You heard Carrie talking about some of the things that she's doing in Civic Field and the fishing pier. There's a lot of qualities being rolled back into you in the form of services. You heard Chief Compan talk about the crimes prevention unit, or the crimes unit. So those are things that we're rolling right back into you in the levels of services to make your community more safer. You go down the road right down here, you will see evidence. Those streets have been nicely paved. Thank you very much, Phil, for that. But that's something that we do. The Meadowdale ball fields, those are also nice things to see with our amenities. So I really like to think that we're giving you good value for your dollar. Well, here's another one that affects you as well on slide 5. This is your values of home. This is an average value of homes in the city from 2007. You'll see that they peaked in 8 and 9, and they started to decline. Well, that's because the demand for your homes also declined when the economy declined. Well, you see that they're coming back quite nicely. So again, that's a value that's definitely affects each and every one of you. The bottom on page property tax, you'll see that there's new construction. New construction, Eric Shane talked about the busyness that her department is experiencing. Well, here's some evidence. Shane's department's been really busy, and it's really a big help to us financially as well. It brings more citizens to the town. They're also paying more property taxes to the city, and then you also have more people patronizing our businesses. Sales tax revenues on page 7, you'll see that this is just comparing last month to April to a year ago in 15. Our sales tax revenues continue to come in quite strongly. If you look at the very bottom bar on that, it'll say contractors. Some of you may be like, what's going on there? We just talked about how Shane's department was really busy. Well, in 2014, we had a major construction project. Swedish Edmonds was doing a major expansion, and those, of course, that's a one-time project. If we didn't have that effect, our sales tax from contractors would be increasing. Another one that's really interesting too, you'll see evidence as you just drive down the street here, just like the very next block, you'll see this for sale sign. For sale signs, homes don't stay there very long. If you notice that, there's a lot of houses that are turning quite quickly. Well, this actually is a huge boom for the city. What we have, because real estate excise tax has restrictions of what we can spend it on. A lot of it goes to pay for capital-related projects. And so you'll see that when we look at the year-to-date April compared to 2012, we've actually had some nice increases there. So one of the other things that we work on in finance is we started a new committee. It's called Long-Range Financial Planning. And this is probably one of the more exciting things I get to work on, is that anticipation of how to pay for all the things. We look at, for instance, Carrie has a really great plan. It's called PROS, Parks, Recreation, Open Space. In that plan, there's all her items that she would like to add as far as parks. She has ideas on what it would cost and some of the revenue streams. Well, then you'll hear from Phil from the Public Works Department. He also has plans. There's a transportation improvement plan. There's also lists of items that he'd like to pay for. Well, there's other plans that also need to be attended to. We have facilities, the facilities we're in. We have to maintain those and pay for their replacement. So you start looking at all these things, you start putting them together, guess what? They're getting their funding from the same bucket of dollars. So how do we go and distribute or allocate those dollars to the various projects? So as Long-Range Financial Planning Committee is going to be looking at that, they're going to be coming up with some ideas and some recommendations. They'll be floated around to staff and then ultimately to council. But those are some of the exciting things that we're working on. So, Mayor, that's pretty much all I have right now. I'll conclude my remarks, and if there's questions later, we have to answer those.
Introduce the last director. I should introduce you to the person that really runs the city. And that's executive assistant in my office. She coordinates so much stuff. And always sends me out the door headed in the right direction with the right kind of support material that I have. She organizes events like this and does it flawlessly. So, Carolyn, would you please stand? It's been really great to work with her. The last person to speak this evening, and he just volunteered, just saw him was Phil Williams, who does run our Public Works Department and also works in the engineering area. So, Phil.
Thank you. There's the timer. Start with that. Did anybody get one of these? If you didn't, just raise your hand. I have several extras. I am not going to spend a lot of time on this. Here you go. All right. Thank you. Hopefully, if you're interested in this, you can look at it. But what it is, just to explain it, if you have one in your hand. First page is a map showing where we're going to pave streets this summer, starting about 3 weeks and extending through the end of July about. And one I did want to point out for you up north here is the part we didn't pave last year on Meadowdale Beach Road is going to get paved this year. Calvert Road, those are both fairly far north here in town, is also going to get paved this summer. The second page it shows the sewer and drainage projects that are going to happen this year. And if you have any questions about those, they're identified in the upper left, and the location is noted on the map. The third page is the 2016 water line replacement program. We're involved in a very long-term replacement of old water lines throughout Edmonds. Those projects are noted on here. The next page that has the picture pullouts are the 2016 stormwater drainage improvements at a particular location, one up north, one south. The next page it says CIPP. I hate using acronyms, but you wouldn't know what that means. Cured and placed pipe. So instead of digging up sewer lines and replacing them, digging a new ditch, having to restore the road on top of it, there are times and situations where you can actually line the pipes, do it trenchlessly underground, and it's a very cost-effective way to repair sewer lines. The next page is the next two pages are actually 2017 projects, so you can look ahead a little bit. What is Public Works? Did I hand my yellow pad out when I handed out? Oh, here it is. I actually had a couple notes. I was just going to say, what is Public Works? You probably really know that, but we do all the things people don't spend time talking about. We don't build spray parks, although we did manage that project for Terry. But our stuff isn't nearly as much fun, and that's why I'm last, I think. I'm not offended by that. It doesn't bother me, although it happens every time. But, I may be last on your program, but I know I'm first in your heart. And if not, I will be if your sewer backs out. That's going to happen. So we're about 83 people in my department. We're the biggest department, which leads into our primary skill set is spending money. We spend about 40% of the city's total budget. Certainly having that many people, that's a big part of our expenses, just the people to do the work. But we also have a very robust capital program. We'll be spending about $20 million this year doing all the things that are on those sheets, plus transportation projects. And I wanted to call a few of our more recent projects to your attention. And I'll get done as quickly as I can. I'm watching my time. But we just finished a big transportation project down at 228 and Highway 99 when we built that new east-west corridor. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to drive that yet. On 228 out of Edmonds, across 99, all the way out to the park and ride on I-5. It's killer. I mean, it really saves time for people that have that trip in their repertoire. That was a joint project with Motley Terrace. It was funded almost entirely with federal grants, which gets to another point I wanted to make. One thing we have been really successful at in the entire city, and I know our department has contributed to that heavily as well, is going out seeking, as Patrick said, other people's money to do these projects. You've got to tell a good story, you've got to show a need, and you've got to get yourself in front of the right people and be convincing, and there's money to be gotten out there. It usually requires some matching funds that has to come from the city. But for a lot of these transportation projects, that's only 13.5% of the cost of the total project. So you can really leverage the few city dollars that we can access in a big way in the transportation area. A lot of the work that you saw on that map, or will if you look at it, is utility work. And there are no grants involved in that. That all comes from rates that people write checks to us every month for their water, their sewer services, and also the drainage services that the city provides. It's that rate revenue that runs all of those programs. And we have really ramped these up in the last 5 or 6 years. We're kind of, if you think of the life cycle of Edmonds, a lot of the pipes that are in the ground now were put in anywhere from the 1930s up to about the 1960s or so. That's when most of that stuff was put in the ground. Well, we're a long ways down the road from that. That stuff needs to be replaced. So it's kind of the second generation of piping in the ground. And we weren't doing an awful lot of that until about 6 years ago with the mayor's support, with the council's support. Frankly, the key to that was raising our utility rates, so I'm sure you noticed that. That generates additional dollars, which can fund this capital program. The other alternative is to borrow money. And you know the penalty that comes with that. They do expect you to pay it back. And then not just what you borrow, but a good deal more than that. So we were writing huge checks for interest on revenue bonds. So what we're trying to do is raise enough of our own capital to do this every year reliably with our own money rather than trying to borrow. That's just not a successful strategy long term. So that's going on. Transportation, I mentioned the one, the 76th and 212th, that intersection by the high school, that really gets knotted up in the afternoon. I know you're aware of that. Some of it's pedestrian activity late in the afternoon. We don't have the right turn lanes. We don't have dual phase left turn lanes. We're going to be putting in right turn lanes there. That's about a $5.5 million project. That's starting this summer. We'll finish next year. That would be a big help to people traveling along 212th. We did 5 corners. So that took care of one bottleneck as you try to leave town in that key corridor. This intersection, when it's fixed, will allow you to get out to Highway 99 and beyond much more efficiently. And we're also putting in bike lanes on the 76th cross street there. So if you start at 220th and come north, what is now a 4-lane section, but just 2 little yellow stripes in the middle, and when people are wanting to turn, it just gets jammed up, and it's actually more efficient to move cars to go down to 2 lanes with one center turn lane. So that'll be the geometry you'll see when that project is done. It'll move cars better, and it'll allow us enough room to put bike lanes on both sides. And those bike lanes will continue on north past 212th all the way up eventually to 196th. I did want to follow up a little bit on the Mayor's Task Force, which is addressing the at-grade railroad crossing issue. That's gone very well. We have citizens on that committee, Mr. Lowell right here, who recently inducted into the University of Washington Construction Professional Hall of Fame. You probably saw that story in the Edmonds Beacon. He's participating on the task force as a private citizen. Councilmember Nelson is the city council liaison to that group. So we have private citizens, we have DOT, we have the railroad, we have community transit, we have sound transit, sitting down trying to figure out what are we going to do to solve these problems. One is getting emergency vehicles to the other side of the railroad tracks when the trains are coming and going, and they're going to be coming and going much more frequently in the next 15 to 20 years. So that's one issue. The other one is much more efficient loading and offloading of the ferry. And you remember the answer to the ferry was to go to Edmonds Crossing. That seems to be something that has rather noticeably changed in the state's plans. Edmonds Crossing is not something they're pursuing now. So we are looking for a project that will certainly help the ferries out, but also help solve our local problems, like emergency access, like getting pedestrians and bicyclists and other non-motorized traffic on both sides of the tracks, independent of where the trains are. And if you can imagine going from the about 40 trains a day that we have now, which includes passenger and freight, to about 100 trains a day or more in the next 15 years, the problem gets much more difficult. I think I'm going to just stop there because I looked at my time and I just got my 7.5 minutes in. So I'm happy to answer questions too, with any that you have.
Just so you have a point of reference, our general fund budget, that is our day-to-day expenses, pretty much comes out of that. We're right around $39 million just in the general fund. All of our pot together, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're like that, all of our funds come to about $98 or $99 million. So there's a lot of, it's really good therapy for me tonight to hear the reports of these various directors, because it has an cumulative effect of understanding all of the work that was done in this city. It's impressive, and the directors and Kurt Brooks and I are really a wonderful group to work with. It makes my job every day going in and knowing that I've got enormously competent people running these various areas. I'll be quiet on whatever I want to say now. It's time for you folks, and maybe you have questions you'd like to ask. I certainly can't answer all of them. We've got a good director up here to help.
I was just observing, I celebrated the 39th year from when my wife and I moved into town on Memorial Day. And I think I was one of the newer members. Now, how long have you been in the police force?
38 years.
38 years. See, it's new in town. But I was observing through this whole process this evening, what a great town we live in. And I know there are problems and I know there are exceptions, but man, we've got some really competent people. And Mr. Mayor, I compliment you because we once ran against each other politically. We've since then become good friends. And I applaud the way that you have made a welcoming atmosphere to get good quality people and hang on to them. But it's one of the few towns that I know of where there is no controversy with the police department. Nobody is saying that the police abuses their power. When you walk and see a police officer, you typically, at least I was always, I wave at them. They're my friends. And I think that of all of these directors, that they really care about this city. And I know in working directly with several of them, they go way beyond what their pay scale is to make sure the job gets done. Phone calls that are received after working hours just to make sure that we're still in touch. So I think we have an awful lot to be proud of. There's always room for improvement for sure, but I think we live in a pretty damn great town.
Thanks very much, Nick. The other comment I'd like to make in reference to what you just said is we did run against each other for city council. I'm pleased to say I won. But here's the real fun part. I found out before filing week, the next cycle, that one of our council members was not going to rerun again. So I pick up the phone, call Dick, and say, get your rear end up and file. Which he did and won the election and served on council. So
That's an accurate story. No, I really applaud him for that because that shows you the kind of man he is. That, you know, he didn't hold the grudge. We worked hard at winning, and he won.
and I'm sure you would have called me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I gave a comment and a question. First of all, certainly an exception, it sounds like, for the communication. I have had wonderful services with, or wonderful interactions with all of the directors that I've spoken with. Particularly the development services group has been, as a homeowner, a treat to deal with, where I can go down and ask questions. Everybody in there is very willing to help and go beyond, which, and by the way, nice remodel in the office. But a question for Al. You were giving the statistics for 2015. Do you have any sense yet in 2016, are we on track for similar amount of calls? Are you seeing a trend up or down in any particular type of activity that we ought to be happy about or concerned about? How's the year starting to work?
One thing I was very happy about last year is our residential burglaries were down. We were fortunate. We made some really good arrests during the year, so we were able to impact the rate of residential burglary. One of the things that's most concerning to me, and it's throughout the Puget Sound area, it's throughout this country, is the level of opiate addiction, heroin in particular. That is a concern because that drives a lot of the property crime that we have, whether it's burglary or auto theft or robbery.
Taking place over the last, I guess, almost 10 years now, is with the 2008 recession. I'll use that as an example. Of course, all of municipalities, counties, federal, state governments were really put under a lot of pressure financially. And one of the outcomes of that has been, as we make this recovery, trying to restaff where we were back in 2008 when I was first came into office in 2011. We had, I made budget cuts, and we dropped, I think it was 12 people that we reduced there. And we're trying to scale back up, and along with myself. But it really is a problem we're going to have to wrestle with. At the same time, the federal government, followed by the state government, followed by the county government, doesn't want to revamp things as quickly as I want to in a lot of these cities do. So we end up, I'll use social programs as an example. We've typically been able to look to the federal and state governments for assistance with various social programs. They are slow on the pickup there, and so we find that as cities are finding, and the county too, are finding that we're having to step in to really become a social agency too. It's a challenge, one that we need to take, and that's why I mentioned it as one of the three issues, or my big issue is one that we're really having to sort out now. And we need to know that the county's working with us, the cities in South County are beginning to meet to try to figure out where we go and how to solve the problems. But question, John.
What are the plans or future thinking about the disused fishing pier down here?
Who wants to respond to that one?
I don't have any plans for it.
That's not the marina.
No, the one down here that has all the earmarks about it being an attractive nuisance. And we have the issue of people on and so I'm looking down there and saying, are we doing any long-range views or plans, or are there solutions that's available?
We're just kind of starting to think about that. We've been talking a little bit from a point of view of our recreational assets and trying to figure that out. So that will be something we address in this next year or two.
One of the challenges, John, as you probably already know, is that it's a state issue too.
Yeah.
And we just can't go in and tear it down because there are environmental issues that have to be directed, but it's an eyesore, even if it's more than that, it's certainly an eyesore.
It is a hazard.
And it's polluting the beaches too whenever we get a
May I
rainstorm.
speak up a bit?
It's polluting our beaches around there too, because anytime we get a storm, the debris that washes up is hazardous.
We've been really trying to focus on that. Part of the issue for the city is we don't have authority over what's out there in the water. A lot of that's DNR land. So we've been in touch with DNR and the other state agencies that are involved with that, trying to work with the property owner and all those things. It's because that was a big concern. We've got this mess out there in the water. So it's getting cleaned up some, as you probably see, but more needs to happen. So we've got it.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah, Phil.
In your opening remarks, you mentioned the 5 areas. One of them is the downtown parking issue. Do we know, is anything in the works in terms of studying various strategies or plans to possibly address that concern?
We've talked about we need to take steps to begin a pretty thorough analysis of the current parking practice because while they're, especially after 6 o'clock, it's mostly the community taking up the parking places. During the day, there's an awful lot of property owners, there's an awful lot of people who are working in various businesses that are parking their cars. And one of the issues we're looking at to hopefully begin to address that would be to expand our ticketing practices, as well as doing some pretty substantial publicity that if you don't understand what 3 hours mean, you're about to find out. But that's really the short issue. We're going to have to locate where we can have more parking. Whether it's a parking facility, whether it's more parking places provided. We have very valuable businesses in town. We were just looking at one here a couple of months ago. I wasn't aware they actually have 50 to 60 employees in the building, and they're really running out of space as far as having clients come in and finding parking places. So there's a variety of issues that we need to look at, but it's something we've become increasingly aware of and we'll be trying to move forward on.
Mayor, I just wanted to add one
Yeah.
thing related to that. So the Downtown Alliance, the business group for downtown, is actually hiring an engineer to do a study of that parking lot that's behind Chanterelles there on 4th Avenue. That's partially city parking, partially private parking, to see if there's any optimization of the design. It's sort of a strangely shaped parcel there, and just kind of eyeballing what looks like it could be, striped and configured it more efficiently. So they're taking a little piece of that, and I think also Bertram House with engineering has been working with them to explore the potential for some restriping on, say, I think 6th, where they could possibly have some diagonal parking because it's a wider street. It would double the amount of parking on a couple of blocks. So right now there's some small things that could yield a little more parking in the works. And obviously what the mayor said, we need to take a more comprehensive look in general. So just wanted to add that.
We have been working with a couple of property owners to see how amenable they might be to having a 2-level parking facility on the property. One of the challenges you face from the city side in something like this is that there's not a place where you go to get easy grants. You've got to figure out pretty much the funding yourself, at least what I've been able to gain good knowledge now. So it's a multi-level approach that we're going to have to take to solve the problem. Other questions? Yeah.
I have a question on the grade separation. Maybe this involves you and Phil, but in reading the news articles as this thing has evolved and the process has been started, it sure looks like the railroad basically just thumbs its nose at anything that costs them more than 25 cents. They totally vetoed the idea of the tunnel, or not the tunnel, but the channel, trench. Ostensibly because it costs them more fuel to go up. Pardon me?
That would cost more than 25 cents.
I think it would. But, they don't seem to be willing to participate or take any responsibility, not only for the safety of the issue, but also the commonality of it. As you mentioned, the doubling of the number of trains that's going to come by, the huge volume, and the grade separation. So can you tell us how does that work? Are they a willing partner, or are they just...
Well, they first offered to come into the partnership with the study we're doing now and offered $25,000 as a partner, which, that's money. And I said, no, it needs to be more. And they came back with $50,000. So we put this group together by, first of all, we didn't get to acknowledge the state. The state funded $500,000 to help with this project. And the city has come in with money, Sound Transit, Community Transit, Burlington Northern, and the Port came in with $25,000. So in response to that, we find that Burlington Northern stays very tight to whatever the speaking points are. When I used to meet with people and we were trying to put together the sound program as a part of Sound Transit, we had wonderful meetings with nice people, but at the end it would go sort of like you understand who owns the property, you understand who owns the rails, and you understand what in perpetuity means. And so that's an uphill struggle when we deal with that. I think, well, I'll say this because we've had on 3 different occasions the government affairs person has said, we know we have a very unusual situation in the city of Edmonds. And that unusual situation is obviously lots of trains, a state highway, the ferry system, and access for public safety on the other side. I tell the story that a couple of years ago, unfortunately, a young man stood out, arms out, with the train coming right at him. It stopped traffic at both intersections, and they stopped the 4 hours. And
More recently, the almost exact same circumstance with, what, 2.5 hours?
yeah,
Tragically a suicide, but nonetheless, the drama continues on both sides of that track.
I want to get back to your question though. Bob, the practice is, it's probably in law, that they only have to pay 5% of whatever the project is. Based upon what the government affairs person has said in public and in private, along with some private conversations I have, I think ultimately there may be more flexibility than 5% if this in fact is an unusual situation they have to deal with.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Keep going.
Anything else? So you want to go home? What's the Mariner score?
It's a basketball game, boss.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, Golden State.
Yep.
Thank you very much, folks. Thank you.